Fellow democracy lovers, I welcome you to the channel. We are in a time of crisis once again. These disgusting bugs are destroying what we cherish. Our families, our lives, and most importantly, our freedom is at stake if we are not to crush these vile beasts. But on top of that, violent monstrosities known as the automatons kill all in their way, wiping out all our innocent citizens without care. With these aggressors spreading out all over the galaxy, it is down to our beloved Helldivers to make the difference. Push back the terrors out there and bring democracy to our galaxy, all to make sure the people back on our home planet of Super Earth can live in peace with liberty at the heart of everything. But I hear you freedom lovers asking me, your beloved lawmaster, what on Super Earth are you talking about? What are these bug creatures threatening us? What are these robots you speak of? And what on Super Earth is, well, Super Earth? Well, if you're asking that last question,
you've got some attitude, mister.
But despite your ignorance, I shall tell you anyway about how the war all started and how it got to this stage that we are currently in right now. Today we will be exploring everything there is to know about this universe and what you are essentially doing to save it, as you are a proud, democratic-loving, cape-wearing Helldiver spreading freedom all over. So grab yourself a cup of libertea and join me as today we explore all of the lore behind the Helldivers universe. Humanity. A species obsessed with always wanting to know what was out there in our galaxy and wider universe, finally made that jump in the year of 2084, where they would create faster than light ships to venture out into the stars and explore our vast galaxy for long periods of time. The main aim was pretty simple. It was just to see if there was anything out there. Were there inhabitable planets filled with rich fauna? Was there new species that could be researched? And were there new stories to be told? Well, for the people of the advanced world of Super Earth who were exploring, they answered all of those questions as they almost immediately came into contact with new species, mainly the ones that would later go on to be known as Terminids. When they first encountered these creatures, most of them were peaceful and no bloodshed was spilled. Quite clearly, these new contacts appreciated freedom and democracy and were all for peace talks despite not being able to talk. But not long after, well actually to put it plainly, very quickly after that, the people of Super Earth started to fear these new contacts, thinking that making communication with them would lead to hostilities, as they were aliens at the end of the day and they would not fully get on with their culture. You see, Super Earth was a very unique society. Mankind by the 2080s had made dramatic changes when it came to the concept of democracy, and this new revolutionary form of it was the foundation of what made their society so great and prosperous. What made this form of democracy so unique was down to the way people voted. Created within the 21st century, mankind launched a computer-aided voting software which citizens used on the day of electing the government. This computer got the individuals to answer several questions from the galactic wide web to get a sense of what they deemed important in society, rather than making it all about a politician's personality. With these questions answered, the computer would then decide the outcome of their vote, and the computer would put it forward under their name, making it much more personal in the eyes of everyone, as it was your answers that helped decide your vote. This was deemed the perfect solution as it removed any uncertainty, making sure everyone could vote and there were no individuals who were too confused by political parties and manifestos, and ultimately in the end, mankind had perfected managed democracy. To most this was perfect, democracy how it should be, but that's not to say all agreed with it, with some believing it was manipulated by whatever government wanted to get into power. Those who went against the Federation or government of Super Earth would be sent away to an appropriate quadrant, as it was deemed illegal to express oneself openly, and any negative speech of the Federation or government of Super Earth would result in an immediate arrest or full-on termination. This message would be spread around the world on a regular basis, being brought to the citizens by Super Earth PT Limited, sponsored by Super Earth. Down on Super Earth itself, it could be seen that society was getting to a dangerous position. One story tells of how a neighbor outright pressed charges on their own son for not honoring that beloved Super Earth flag. The family was so proud of Super Earth and believed all should be, that even if their own blood disagreed, they would rather they be arrested than have them in the same house. But despite some small cases of people going against the new government of the now unified Super Earth, most conformed to its ways and were extremely proud of their home. Those who did not conform to these new ways were quickly cast out, it seems by specialized troopers that underwent ranger training before Super Earth was the way it was today. Now fully trained as some of the best warriors on the planet, they would go around being essentially fully trained military assassins and reconnaissance specialists who would act as a police force taking out any who betrayed their world. But despite all that was going on Super Earth itself, out there in the wider galaxy, the humans who had started witnessing the bugs out on different planets had decided that these creatures were a threat. They weren't peaceful beings living on their own planets, they were dangerous and would kill all that got in their way. Humanity needed to do something. They needed to shut these bugs down and show them the full force of managed democracy. And just like that, humanity's first intergalactic war had begun. This whole battle went on for 40 years, with humanity and the bugs swinging back and forth between territory gained and lost. The messages going back to the people of Super Earth were that their loyal troopers were making sure freedom was being fought for, and the bugs were not going to stand in their way of making the galaxy fully democratic. This once again didn't sit right with some members of society who wanted to go against their untouchable government. This led to some citizens fully augmenting themselves and turning themselves into what was essentially cyborgs, and now with their new image that certainly stood out from everyone else in society, they would rebel against the Federation, setting up their own cyborg nation, donning a flag that had a bright red star in the middle, which many democratic Super Earthers would label as being socialist in origin, and spat in the very face of their freedom. Senator John W. Killjoy even claimed that these cyborgs were the worst traitors, and anyone who wanted to sit down and talk to them about peace or anything like that were just simply hippies, and they should be jailed or even executed. This new rise in supposed socialist thinking came to the forefront within Northman's Creek, where the socialist government there threatened to secede from the Federation of Super Earth. In response to this claim, the first issue of Hellpods and Helldivers, who had most likely gone through full ranger training, were sent in, 50 to be exact, and were plunged directly into the Parliament, executing all of the socialists in Northman Creek and bringing this region back into the Federation of Super Earth. The cyborgs had now fully broken away from Super Earth, but it wasn't until a few cyborg terrorists went on to detonate a massive bomb in a city planet that went on to kill thousands of civilians that triggered humanity's new war against these heartless cyborgs who just wanted to spread violence all over the system and hated any form of freedom and democracy. The story wasn't exactly true, as the attack was actually in District 48 of Super Earth and it killed 8 citizens. But the message still worked, as many feared these altered traitorous humans who had broken away from their society needed to pay, and the only way to make them pay was by killing them all, or forcing them to become democratic like them. If anyone were to question the official story of this terrorist attack, they would once again be labeled as cyborg sympathizers and would be arrested or taken out. Alongside all of that, humanity would also go on to encounter the Squith, otherwise known as the Illuminate, who humanity quickly became hostile with. Back on Super Earth, their propaganda campaign quickly labeled this species as enlightened alien beings who originated from the ocean and used bioelectronics and nano-powered devices to get around. These were the last species to be encountered late in the 21st century, as their recon crafts were frequently sighted over planets. Whilst first believed to be folklore, the Illuminate came to humanity with a peace offering, but this was quickly declined by the Super Earth government, as these species were found to have large quantities of world-destroying devices nicknamed obliterator bombs, which humanity did not like and knew that in the hands of these aliens could see their utter downfall. They were to take these weapons from them by force, and once again a new third war had started alongside all of the others, with John W. Killjoy stating, "The statement sends a clear message to all would-be threats to Super Earth. If they had more advanced technology than us, be prepared to pay the price." Super Earth's government also made sure the messages were going out the right way and people weren't being swayed the other direction, with the galactic wide web being closely monitored to make sure messages of bug and Illuminate support weren't being issued out, and if they were, the people responsible were to be labeled as alien sympathizers and were either arrested, cast out of society, or killed where they stood, with public broadcasts of executions happening to anyone who went against their messages. Now fighting a war on 3 fronts, the Helljump Helljumpers became the dominant military force for humanity after being trained extremely quickly and being told they had an 11% chance of survival. These troopers would be sent in to do all of the main fighting, pushing back the vile aliens and traitorous cyborgs, as well as doing other mundane tasks like resource collecting and securing facilities. But you see, during the war, scientists of Super Earth discovered that the bugs they were fighting were dropping an oil-like substance in mass quantities. This oil substance that lay left behind was extremely similar in qualities to what was fossil fuels, and suddenly with this discovery, these bugs had now offered a new solution to the fuel crisis, and with that, a new motivation to fight back the bugs and also get to their home planet of Kepler Prime would come into order, as they were going to set up oil pumps on the planet, harvesting all of the precious oil these bugs were leaving all over the place, allowing the Super Earth war machine to keep active without a worry of relying on their fossil fuels found on their own planet. After a long grueling 40 years of fighting, pushing all three of the factions back into their home planets and then pushing humanity back to Super Earth, humanity eventually was able to destroy enough of the bugs and steal their precious oil resources, push back the traitorous cyborgs into their cold, snow-covered wasteland on the galactic fringe, as well as being fully democratized once again, as well as eliminate the Illuminate and wipe them out fully, with the Super Earth Federation taking all of their precious advanced technology for themselves, helping them to advance even further now and upgrade their ships, weaponry, and many other things. The WMDs were of particular focus, as humanity would now hoard all of the collected weapons here, ready for if anyone were to question their ways or try and overthrow their managed democracy. With the Galactic War now over, the Helljumpers were praised for being the true heroes of the war and would go on regular parades to boost humanity's morale. That said, however, they now had nothing to really do, as thousands had trained, but with no war, what were they to fight against? How could they spread liberty when liberty had already been administered? Because of that, for a time, the Super Earth leadership rendered the Helldivers, the heroes of the war, absolutely obsolete, and got them doing mundane duties such as daily patrols in neighborhoods and simple peacekeeping tasks, which must have been extremely boring for those who craved combat and wanted to just spread democracy all over the galaxy. As for the scientists who had been studying the bugs during the war, they were now able to capture a large variety of them and brought them back to Super Earth and the city planets to breed them and harvest their resources. Because after the war, humanity started expanding further out of its boundary in a time that was known as the Great Democratization. But this came with a problem. Their propulsion system that was powering the interstellar journeys required the rare element they discovered during the war known as E710, which had been secured from the carcasses of the Terminid bugs. Now having a load of these bugs under their control, mass cultivating them, humanity were able to power their new technology developed from the Illuminate, and were able to power their propulsion system to venture further out into the stars. For a time this worked perfectly, as it was a new era for Super Earth, as the people all over the Federation were able to thrive in a new golden age of technology, democracy, and freedom. But after a century of peace since the Galactic Wars ended, the Terminids had enough of being kept in captivity and unexpectedly broke free, spreading all over the galaxy and attacking any human settlements to start up their own once again. It is unknown how exactly these Terminids were able to spread over the galaxy through space travel and setting up on their own planets. However, it is most likely linked to their young and eggs finding their way onto humanity's ships without notice and being transported across the galaxy. That, as well as their civilization being spread through meteors hitting the planet and causing their nests to form, that combined together with the manufactured Terminids would create these new warriors, different to that of the bugs fought within the First Galactic War. Immediately with the Terminids spreading all over the galaxy once again, threatening human colonies owned by Super Earth, the government started another war, ordering all of the active Helldivers as well as the new recruits to fight in their war for democracy against this terrifying yet familiar foe. This new wave of soon-to-be Helldivers would be bombarded with propaganda on a daily basis, urging them to sign up to fight for their families and the people of Super Earth, and once they did, would have to go through insanely fast training located on Mars that doesn't explain much to them at all, run by the oldest Helldiver there was, General Brash. And once these recruits completed these extremely simple tasks and salute the precious Super Earth flag, they will be given their incredible cape, qualifying them as a true Helldiver of the Super Earth military, leading to their own personal ship and crew who will look up to them at all times as a true war hero. That said, however, life as a Helldiver isn't all bells and whistles. The actual target age of these troopers is around 17 years old, with an average age of sign up being 18.6 2.7 years old. In total, there would be over 48,736 incoming trainees ready to prove themselves on the field. Out of all of those recruits, only 27.1% would be ready for combat, but most would be signed up anyway. But luckily, 97.4% would be proudly patriotic, and I'd imagine the 2.6% of the others would be kicked out immediately and most likely executed. But sadly for all of these Helldivers, the Terminids wouldn't be the only thing they would have to worry about, as a new familiar looking force would rear its ugly head on the other side of the galaxy. This force would be known as the automatons, or simply just robots, and they would strike a close resemblance to the once cyborgs that plagued humanity, especially their flag. Where these automatons came from is pretty unknown, but I don't think it would be too big of a leap to suggest that maybe some of the cyborgs broke away and developed themselves even further, losing all sense of their humanity to become a dominant war machine. That, or they created war machines to fight for them, whilst they stayed in hiding, maybe teaming up with some of the Illuminate who remained after the First War to really try and take out the best of humanity and the Helldivers. Regardless of what their story would be, these individuals would start attacking Super Earth-run planets, killing all humans in their way, catching the Super Earth government completely off guard. This meant more Helldivers would be sent in to combat these evil cowards and administer hard justice, but would mean the average Helldiver life expectancy would drop dramatically to around 21.3%, meaning that most who dropped into missions would die to these red-eyed evil robots and their laser weapons. With the Second Galactic War kicking off, planets would be taken by the automatons and fought back hard by groups of Helldivers, as well as other troopers taken to the bug planets to seize vital resources to power their technology, as well as cull them to make sure they aren't spreading too much over the galaxy. And maybe at a later date, a third faction might make an appearance once again, and if they did, the Helldivers' survival rate will plummet once again, as for the second time, they would be fighting on 3 fronts against relentless, familiar enemies. Whilst the fighting is tough with many casualties, humanity will always prevail and Super Earth will thrive once again. In the name of democracy,
let us use that power! Let us all unite! Let us fight for a new world!
And it will all be thanks to these brave Helldivers who plunged into the heart of these deadly planets. But how this victory will come about will have to be documented at a later date. For now though, this has been the story so far of the Galactic Wars within the Helldivers universe. I want to say a big thanks for watching this video, and I hope you like this little lore piece for Helldivers, a game I am totally obsessed with at the moment. I would say I'd do more, but unfortunately the game doesn't work like that in terms of storytelling, but regardless, I hope you enjoyed it anyway. I also want to say a huge shout out to my supporters for funding these videos and help keep me motivated to make more on a regular basis, such as my small fish guys, my big fishes, Greg and new guy Nox of Ox, my YouTube Wise Ones, Video Gamer 75 and Sith Lord 906, my sharks Alfred Correa and Jason X117, and my Megalodons Bad Clams 83, Hazy Thoughts and Sinus. If you also want to support this channel, the links are down below, and also check out the audio versions over on Spotify and other podcast suppliers. But that is all for now. Thank you for watching again, and make sure you are doing your part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.